Okay, so for number 21, we're told that if we made a scatter plot of this data, where renewable energy in year 2000 is plotted along X and renewable energy consumption in year 2010 is plotted along Y-axis, how many data points would be above line Y equals X? So first, let's just quickly understand what kind of graph, I guess, we'd actually be constructing. So if we have uh, energy consumption year 2000 along X and 2010 along Y, that basically creates a situation where, for example, for biofuels, you'd have a point at, so let's say maybe 0.25 on the X-axis and 1.75 on the Y-axis, because, you know, again, so your X-axis represents your 2000 consumption, and your Y-axis represents your 2010 consumption. So that's how the scatter plot would look like. And we're comparing it to the line y equals x. And what we just got to think about is that y equals x, that's a slope of 1, right? And if you have a slope of 1, that means on this line, the ratio of your y value to your x value is always 1 to 1. So, you know, if you have a line 1, you'd have 0.11, 2, and so on. So what does that mean for us? That means that if if a point were to be above line y equals x, that means that the ratio of y to x is larger than 1 to 1. For example, it'd be y to x of like 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 and something like that. And if a point was below line y equals x, that means, you know, your ratio of y to x would be something like 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. So what does that mean for us? Well, that means that we are looking for the energy, or rather how many energy sources have a larger energy consumption in year 2010 than year 2000, because that would mean that you have a effectively larger y value on this graph than an x, and that means your ratio of y to x would be larger than 1 to 1. So biofuels, yes, definitely, it grew a ton. So again, you'd have something like 0.25 for x and like 1.75 for y, so the y is much bigger. Your y to x ratio is bigger than 1 to 1, so this would definitely be above, graphed above a line y equals x. What about geothermal? Yes, it's still above 1 to 1, but just barely, right? Just barely, but your y value would still be larger than your x in this scatter plot, so your ratio of y to x would still be larger than 1 to 1, so this would be above line y equals x. Here, your 2000 value is larger than your 2010, so that means your x value would be larger than your y, so your ratio of y to x would not be larger than 1 to 1, it'd be like 1 to, 1 to 2 or something. So here again, because your y is larger, because your y 2010 is smaller than your x, this would not be above, graphed above the line y equals x. Here, again, it increases from 2000 to 2010, so this would be above the line, and here it decreases. So out of these 5, we have only 2 that decrease, so that means that there are only 2 points below the y equals x, which of course means that there are 3 that are above the line y equals x. So your answer here would be C, 3.